Hello.
Hello, ladies.
Hi.
Happy Thursday.
Yes. For a holiday weekend, it's very exciting.
Yep.
There goes Chris.
Already.
She's
Christopher
bringing
Lee.
my dinner. My dinner finally showed up.
Nice.
I'll eat
Chris
it later.
brought leftovers from a work event he had, so I scarfed down really quickly before this.
I tried.
That's all right. It is what it is.
Not bad at all.
I feel like it's been a long time since we've done one of these when it
I
really hasn't
know.
been.
It's just our normal 2 weeks. We didn't do one last week, but
I know, but it's still maybe because I was in Florida. We drove back from Florida. Then, like, we're going somewhere this weekend. It's just
you guys had a lot going on.
Telling you,
definitely.
Yeah.
So much.
It's out there on the. It's out there on Facebook already?
Yeah.
Sweet. All right, I'm gonna share it on my Facebook real quick.
Okay, we're on YouTube also.
Join wherever you like.
Yep.
Or if you're listening to this, you've already joined, and you really don't need me to say that.
Precisely.
So, no worries. Hey, it's been a day.
Yep. It's been a day.
I finally got the invitation. I think Whitney, you did too. That we're signed up for Angola.
What's
I
Angola?
got the acceptance for the Angola prison.
Oh, I haven't checked my mail today, so
I think you were approved too.
Okay.
When are you guys gonna go?
We're thinking like the second week in August.
Okay.
Nice.
So we'll go spend a day with him or something on the second week of August before we go to the expo that you guys are doing in Dallas.
Oh yes.
And then we've got some other travel plans that I think that we need to set up.
Okay.
I think I had mentioned it before, but I'm super excited about it. It's going to be huge, y'all. For survivors, it's going to be huge.
Yes. Awesome.
Yeah.
Exciting. So, want to just chat about it? Do we have a plan for tonight?
Well, we were going to continue on with the charter where we left off. Is that what we want to do?
Whatevs.
I think that just continue on with that section, and then if we still have more time, which we probably won't because we can go on all kinds of tangents.
I'm like that. The charter could last forever.
Yeah. Well, just that one section is just so freaking meaty. Good gosh.
Meaty.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's gonna be a minute for me to find it to open it up. But clearly, I'm not prepared.
I am not either. I just picked up my sister and her husband and my nieces and nephew from the airport literally an hour ago. So, yeah, my two nieces
have family time.
Yes, yes, we're gonna have a good time. My nieces and nephew are gonna stay here for a whole month with me.
Wow.
Yes, I'm very excited.
You guys are gonna do the Disney thing?
Oh no, they haven't done that, but. No, we tried to go to Busch Gardens the other day and it was just so hot. We were miserable in 2 hours.
Yeah.
So, no, we're going to do a lot of beach time and swimming in our pool.
Outside. Yeah. That's always best.
Chill. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we remember where we were is the question.
If you put it up there, I could probably figure it out.
Okay. I don't even remember what page we started on.
It's page of the charter. It's page 142. But I don't know what I know that.
I'm sharing.
Christopher, you can just text me that stuff and not put it in the chat for the world to see.
That's too
Oh,
funny.
How funny. Well, he
and
wants the
that's
world to, he just wants the whole world to know that they need a
Yeah.
trampoline.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you know what? I need to share this over to the groups of their.
Where did you guys find this document?
It was on that X Media or X
Oh, the
Fam
family. Okay.
website. Yes. And let me see.
There's so many pages to this document.
So many pages. But in the meantime, in case anyone listening does not know, Surviving Love, our next podcast will be out.
Mhm.
First episode. I'm so excited for it.
Yay.
On the 6th. So it's coming up quick.
I know that'll be here before we know it.
Oh, it so well. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever we picked the day of the 6th, I was like, oh, that's forever away. But it got here so quickly.
It snuck up on us so fast.
We had gotten past the. No, go back up. I don't think we got to G. I think we were like at.
Well, Lou, you have a good
married
memory.
couple. Let me see. It should take place in public areas of the home. Keep going down a little bit.
I don't even see where you're at.
20. Keep going down. There's D. Go to E.
Okay.
No sexual conduct should be in areas outside the home.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, we did read
Oh, we
that.
did do this. Yep.
Yes. Family disciples are not permitted to engage in sexual interaction with someone who is not a family disciple. I think that's where we left off.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this was after FFing ended, correct?
Yes, this was in 1995. This was in response to a lot of the raids that were happening in 1991 and 92, where the children were removed from the home. And then there was a lot of people that were leaving the family at that point, and there was a lot of litigation going on. And
it's like the AIDS epidemic also played a role in the FFing stuff, correct?
Yeah, that was back in the 80s when
Okay.
the AIDS epidemic really took its toll on society. That's when the family stopped the FFing and closed off sexual relations outside the home. So rules started to change. I think it was as early as like 86, 85, 86 time frame.
Okay.
That's when a lot of the rules changed, and I mean they're always having revolutions. I was reading a document that we might discuss with a couple of the other survivors. Is there was a public apology that they did. There was a document that they provided to a lot of the second generation, and they publicized this to the media as well as to all the members. It was in 1992, and it was this long ass document. It was like, I want to say it was like 10 pages. I found it and I started reading it a little bit, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a good one, because it has a lot in there about what happened and what the miscommunication between what Berg's teachings and Berg's ideas versus what was actually implemented at the home's level. And it was just like this, well, Berg was such a radical speaker. He liked to say things to shock you, but he didn't intend them to be taken at face value. And it's like,
no, that's a cop out. Like, if I've ever heard one.
Yeah, it was just like, so that's one of those letters that I had read a long time ago. And I think that was one of the it wasn't the reason why I left, but it was pretty good confirmation that I had made the right decision when I started to read that letter. And it would be a good letter to read, because we could tear that up.
Yeah, that's insane that he just They
I was
tried to push it off onto everything else. Oh, no, he didn't
yeah,
mean it. He
yeah,
just
yeah. He would
literally gave you a handbook on
Yep.
how to do it.
Yep.
yeah. They tried to play off as, oh well, David Berg was always so radical and he'd always try and shock you and try and make you think and this and that and the other. And I'm like, no,
No, he was a pedophile.
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Wowzers.
And the just the language in that letter was just so,
Yeah,
you
because
know,
essentially he was putting the blame on everyone else.
exactly. You
Yeah.
know, like, well, they just misinterpreted my words.
Of
I'm
course
like,
they did.
I have
"Fuck
seen
no."
some of the Davidito book. There's no misinterpreting what that book is about.
No,
Exactly.
no, not even a little
Now,
bit.
some of the other stuff he put out, there's some things where I'm like, I think he just talked me into 4 different circles and I don't even know what he said.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just some
Oh,
of the stuff that he would come up with is just so bizarre that you just don't even know how to interpret it at all.
yeah.
And
And he just talks in circles. It's just like same thing over and over. And then you're like, did we just not hear this? Why are we 45 minutes of one sentence?
Mhm.
But
well, he was an alcoholic,
yeah,
you
that's
know, I
true.
mean, and that's pretty cyclical for alcoholics is to have that conversation where it just repeats itself and repeats itself and they think that they're being spiritual or being deep or something in their language, but it's not. It's just
jibber jabber.
jibber jabber. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just mouth diarrhea,
Yeah. Wow.
diarrhea of the mouth. Anyway, all right, so you want to start up there, Whitney, with that
Yeah.
first one on G?
Sure. Family disciples are not permitted to engage in sexual interaction with someone who is not a family disciple.
So this is when they started that rule. Like, this was the no shit rule. Like, you cannot have sex with anybody outside of the group.
So they went from the extreme of have sex with everybody outside of the group and get them to come into the group to, oh no, we're going to close off these walls.
Mm-hmm. And realistically, the only reason why was because of AIDS. There was a couple of cases of some of these young ladies getting AIDS, and I don't know what happened to this.
I don't know either.
There, yeah. And it scared them, and they basically, it was tragic. It was tragic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we
What
can
would
talk about
happen
that.
to the women or girls that
They got
ended up
kicked out.
Oh, they just let them fend for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Gosh dang.
There was one couple that I knew of personally that was kicked out in Puerto Rico, and she had gotten AIDS from FFing, and she had 4 young daughters,
Oh no.
and they were basically excommunicated. And
Wow.
I mean, I know that the family in Puerto Rico tried to support them as much as they could, but they literally were like lepers. I mean, it was like they were lepers.
See, and to me, like, she should be able to sue for a freaking crap ton of money because it's essentially workman's comp. She was having to do that for work, and this is what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that just
Mm-hmm.
is horrible.
And then eventually she did die.
Oh.
And then her daughter, when she finally died, her husband and her daughters were allowed to come back into the family.
Did they go back in? Oh, mother.
But not until after she died.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Oh.
Yep.
How could they even how could that dad want his daughters in that environment after how crappy they treated his wife?
Shit.
That's the question. That is the question.
That's the $1 million question right there.
People are brainwashed so deeply into this that it's all they know.
But they were already out. So to me, they're like, they've already severed that cord and
for at least 5 years they'd already been out.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they didn't give her I mean, they yeah. And I mean, it was just tragic because it was right around the time when medicine really started to be able to help them.
Yeah.
it didn't.
What
It became less deadly, and
Mhm.
there
they
was
didn't
actual
believe in
treatments for it.
right.
Like,
They
yeah.
didn't believe in medication, and it was like they were
Senseless.
out of the family, but they were still indoctrinated in the family
Okay.
somehow.
Yeah.
But they
Gotcha.
were isolated. Uh, and then at one point, one of the older daughters was able to join the teen home when she became a teen. And then
Oh,
the second one was able to rejoin when she became a teen. But they had to go through a big, huge process. I mean, and they had to go through isolation and decontamination. So weird.
oh my
So
gosh.
fucked up.
I don't know
So
why.
fucked up.
This is gonna sound insane,
They had to
but
have AIDS tests every 2 weeks or it wasn't that was over a dramatization there, but they had to have random or every 6 months they had to have another AIDS test.
ugh. I was just thinking about Monsters Inc. when like the monsters go in
Yep.
or get touched,
Yep.
then they have to decontaminate. I know that's totally not the same thing. I just have
Yeah.
the randomest thoughts ever.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to
It's okay.
go down that rabbit hole.
Sexual interaction includes any sexual activity. See also offenses warranting the placing of a family disciple on probationary status concerning engaging a sexual contact or acts with those who are not family disciples.
Okay.
So there's also a policies and procedures on this should you break it.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
thorough.
So basically, yeah, it wasn't just sex. Like you couldn't kiss anybody from outside the family. I don't know what would have happened if you were caught flirting with somebody outside the family, but it was just so bizarre. Like they went from prostitution to you best not even look at somebody funny.
Yeah. And here are the punishments if you do that. So
You
it
could
was
get
a very
excommunicated.
well
Yeah.
thought out plan here.
Mm-hmm. We'll lay hands on you and cast those demons out.
This one gets me. So it says the regional shepherds may grant in rare instances and for a specified period of time that a family disciple 18 years and older may engage in a sexual act with someone who is not a family disciple. So should someone find someone outside of the family and be like, listen, I really like this person. I'm seeking special circumstances to allow myself to be with this person. And I would assume it's in hopes to bring that person in.
I
Yeah.
think they had to make a loophole here. They had to leave a loophole for themselves because at that time there was still a lot of fish.
Mhm.
There was still a lot of these wealthy gentlemen that were on the
Yes.
hook. And so they had to give themselves a loophole in and some of them were in relationships with some of the women. They had children with some of the women. I mean, I know of at least a couple.
And then they threw in the age to show this isn't about children.
Yeah.
We're
It
not
has to
letting
be 18
children
years
do
or
it.
older.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. They couldn't
Right,
let
it
go
is.
of whatever money that was bringing in.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean,
Ugh.
inevitably they were supporting the family. I mean, they had children with these women, so
Mhm.
they had to be able to have sex with them if they were going to be handing over any cash to take care of their kids.
Mhm.
Crazy.
The family disciple and, if mated, his or her mate must forego sexual acts with another family disciple for as long as the sexual relationship with the non-family disciple continues, and until the family disciple and his or her mate are cleared by HIV testing 6 months after their last sexual contact with a non-family disciple.
That's a mouthful. Okay.
I keep on going back to that. Like, why do we need to be in everybody's fucking business?
Literally.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is, I feel like they went to the CDC and they're like, listen, we need some sort of statement because this is giving off like COVID vibes. It's only if this and when and after this time period can you do X, Y, and Z, but A and Z must also equal B,
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why
do
whenever
you
I
like
start hearing CDC rules and regulations about COVID, I'm just like,
And do you mark it on a calendar? Like, okay, hey, I was with this outside dude, and now that was April. When can I have relations with my husband? It's gonna be a little while.
Yep.
You better plan ahead for anniversaries or birthdays, because
It's tracking a different type of cycle.
Yeah.
yes. Oh my gosh.
How
It's too
complicated,
much.
right?
It's too much.
Yeah, too complicated. It's like, dude, seriously.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
How
Do you want
about
me to
if
do
no?
H?
Go for it.
Sure.
All right. Those age 18 years and over may not engage in a sexual act with those under the age of 18. Wow. It only took 30 years of the group to finally say, hey, if you're over 18, you can't sleep with children. All right. So that's outlined in the offenses warranting the excommunication of the family disciples.
And
The
they were going
only
to excommunicate you if you broke that rule, because unless you have special dispensation, I think there's a.
the
Yeah.
two exceptions, guys, when they are allowed to sleep with children, are those who are 18 through 20 years old are allowed to engage in sexual interaction with those ages 16 and 17 in accordance with the sex and affection rules. The second exception is if you're 16 or 17 years old and a 20-year-old have been regularly engaging in sexual acts together, and the 20-year-old turns 21, the 16 or 17-year-old may request permission to continue their relationship. The parents or guardians of the 16 or 17-year-old in counsel with the home shepherds may grant permission if they feel it is appropriate.
They
First
had
of
to throw
all,
the parents in there just because. But meanwhile, these teenagers have probably been living without their parents since they were 11 and 12 years old.
exactly.
So
Easily.
they
And
weren't
they've
going to get
learned
their
it
permission.
at all at that age, like at, 10 or younger, which is, and I just am like, why? I would not want anybody even talking about my children's sexual life. I'm sorry. Like, no, no.
And also, they're like, listen, if they're 20 and they turn 21, it's going to like, we got to talk about it a minute.
Yeah,
You're not grandfathered in.
you're not. Okay, but what if it's like 2 days before your birthday from 16?
Again,
Like, this is
you've got to
just,
plan out those birthdays and anniversaries.
oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
You got to make sure that you get special, a waiver
And like,
before
does it need to be
it
notarized?
becomes
Like,
an issue. Oh my God.
so weird. All right, am
Flashback.
I still going? Yeah.
Well,
The family,
I like that they put this in here though, because they're
Yeah.
like, listen, some states are different, like
Yeah.
some ages of consent are different in different states, but we're gonna let y'all know.
Yeah. The age of consent for the family is 18 years old. That's horse crap. That there was no age of consent. This means anyone 18 years or older who engages in a sexual act with anyone under the age of 18. Did I already read that? Will be excommunicated unless his or her action fall under one of the above two exceptions. Well, why are we saying that again? We already said that at the beginning.
I think they were just this is a lot of what I feel is there's only like the bold areas are really the legalese. Everything
Mhm.
else in there is just added for fluff and or to dumb it down to the point where a fifth grader can understand it.
Okay.
Because a
I'm
lot of the
like,
people that are reading this don't have a higher education. They need it
mhm.
explained to them.
Mhm.
So they got to repeat it.
Okay. That's
So am I
craziness.
doing I?
You're doing I.
16 for 16 and 17-year-olds. 16 and 17-year-old teens, sexual interaction is permitted only with consenting 16 to 20-year-olds.
I
It
don't.
is, yeah.
I mean, is like being raised as you have sex regardless consent. I don't feel
Consent is
so.
such a loaded word in this group.
Yeah, because if they were too young to speak, like a lot of the little girls were.
Yeah.
Okay.
Consent is just such a loaded word for me because even if you didn't, even if you weren't into the guy, it wasn't about consent. It was about a brother in need.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh, disgusting. I'm just
Blech.
ugh. Thankfully enough, I mean, I really have to knock on wood because I didn't really present myself. I didn't get stuck in any kind of situation like this. By the time this came out, I was already out. because I had gotten out in 1992 and this came
Okay.
out in 94, 95. So there was still rules in the teen homes. Like you couldn't really have a relationship. They were still doing these kinds of rules like this where they allowed the 18-year-olds on down to have relationships. And then if you were over 21, you really couldn't have a relationship with anybody over 21 or
But just
21 and over.
putting that many teenagers together unsupervised for the majority of it, there is no way that they can control all of that. They had probably no clue what was happening.
No, and I mean I think that that's an unreasonable expectation for any society to be able to assert any kind of control. Because I mean
Yes.
there would think about high school.
Yes.
When you went to high school, nobody was controlling whether you were having blowjobs on the bleachers and stuff like that. So I mean those kinds of things have been happening for ages. And, you know, I mean it's but to put it in black and white like this is just
A bit much.
like your high school handbooks did not have this kind of
No. Could you
detail.
imagine?
Can you imagine? Jesus Christ. Parents would be like livid.
They would be livid.
They're freaking out right now about a little thing called Roe v. Wade. Just imagine, or CRT. Just imagine if they had rules about, oh, you can only have sex with another 16-year-old if you're 16.
Yeah, would not go over well.
Oh, that would be hilarious. But you know, I mean, in retrospect, there was mean girls in a lot of these teen homes. A lot of the teen things that happen when you're just because we were in a cult and we were in a culture where we were isolated from the rest of society did not mean that our teen years were any less anxiety ridden or you know painful for hormone issues and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it just there was an environment that was just very charged sexually and I just remember being so uncomfortable. I mean, I tried as much as I could to just kind of fall under the radar. You know, I mean, you just hide from anything and everything that you feel like is going to hurt you in some way.
Yeah. All right.
And blessedly, I wasn't in it very long. I was only there for about a year and a half. If I'd been there for any longer, God only knows what would have happened to me. But all right. So it is our belief that our senior teens should be given the freedom to lovingly engage in sexual interaction with other consenting 16 to 20-year-olds. Yeah. Parents run. And that in doing so, they will grow in maturity and learn to operate in accordance with the law of love.
Also, there's no birth control in this situation, so there's going to be a lot of young parents.
There was so many young girls. I knew personally of at least 3 or 4 that had 4 and 5 kids, and they were under the age of 21. It's just not disgusting. I mean, because obviously kids are lovely, but
yes, they're lovely, but we don't need 5 by the time we're 21.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But there's got to be some control. Senior teens are encouraged to be open and honest with their parents and shepherds about their questions and issues concerning their sexual interactions so that they can receive counsel and shepherding during this time. All right, shepherding is another one of those family terms.
What does it mean?
Basically, the homes were run by shepherds. They were shepherds and we were the flock.
Okay, so they're like the home leaders.
Yes. So
but
if
isn't
you needed
sometimes
shepherding, that meant that you needed some sort of counsel from the leaders above.
Okay.
Because you were making too many decisions on your own and they needed to guide you in the future.
Yeah.
But would these shepherds sometimes they would be in their early 20s as well?
They would
correct?
also, yeah, at this point, they were encouraging a lot of the second generation adults to become shepherds and, you know, leading these teenagers and leading these new fighters of the end time or whatever way they were calling us at that point, teens for Christ.
Okay.
But yeah, so I mean, it was, and a lot of the older generation, they were getting tired by then. They were 40 and 50 years old, and they were ready to pass on the baton to the young 20-year-olds. Um, so senior teens, parents and shepherds should be understanding of the emotional issues and difficulties that will accompany sharing sexually with one another, such as battles of jealousy, of feeling left out, or of unloving actions. Parents should realize that they need to help the teens overcome these battles. Yeah, because sex solves everything. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Apparently.
yeah, that their teens will need shepherding, understanding, prayer, the word, counsel, and a listening ear. So at this point, they really just wanted to be counselors. Parents wanted to just be, the ones in the background, letting the teenagers take over.
But they also
And
wanted to be these counselors to get all the information from you guys, right?
yeah,
Mhm.
So
yeah,
you have a really insane story about your counseling session or type of thing, right?
yeah. That was a weird one. Um, they, talking to one of the other SGAs. I had totally forgotten about this one thing that they used to do in the teen homes. They used to do something called walkie talkies,
Oh,
and
yes, that was the name.
yeah, it was a walkie-talkie time, and it would usually be another older teenager. So when I was in this teen home in Puerto Rico, I was 15, and so the person that I would have these walkie-talkies with would be somebody that was either 18 years or older. And one day I actually had a walkie-talkie with my dad instead, and my dad was at that point, he was more of an overseer or counselor for the Victors program, which was where they would send all the problem kids.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the one that gave me my walkie-talkie. So obviously there was something going on that I did not know about.
But the walkie-talkies are typically not like you get in trouble. It's just a way to like
Not
chat.
necessarily. Yeah, it was more like a time for you to have an open heart conversation with another young person,
Okay.
and or a leader or something, and tell them your fears and your anxieties, and it was just a
Mhm.
matter of what you wanted to talk
Doesn't seem
about.
like a bad idea. It's almost like a
No.
mentor
Mhm.
program.
And that's the deceptive part of this group, is that
Yeah,
there was so much stuff that would have been healthy,
yeah. If done the
but
right way.
yes. I mean, it's
Mhm.
going like to it's kind of like going to a summer camp.
With boundaries. It needs
It
boundaries.
needs boundaries.
And
Yes.
it was just like this fuck fest summer camp instead. How
Mhm.
healthy is that for a teenager to go to? Mm. But anyway, yeah, and it wound up being that there was an uncle in the home that I kind of knew from before, that knew me as a child, and I kind of gravitated to because I knew him. I was
Mhm.
comfortable around him. I was thrust into this situation where I came from a very small home. We had maybe 30 or 40 people in the home, to an area of Puerto Rico that had three very large homes, 180 people sometimes to a home. And my siblings got basically separated from me. I'd never
Mm.
been separated from my siblings for any extended
And
period
you
of
were such
time.
a caretaker of them that it
And
was
yeah, I mean, I'm the
very
oldest of the
difficult.
nine. So, and I was always basically the oldest child in the home.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that I wasn't kind of, uh, the princess or whatever, because I kind of was. I
Mhm.
mean, when you're the only oldest child, and you have that much responsibility, you can develop some adult feelings, or like all of a sudden now I'm being treated like a child. Like, why is this happening? But so I gravitated to this gentleman because I was familiar with him, and he was nice. He would talk to me, and he was the only one that I knew at that home. And I got in trouble because apparently somebody had maybe seen me flirt or say something that was inappropriate, or I don't know. I don't know exactly what occurred, but my dad had to have this conversation with me about flirting with this gentleman because he was an uncle. He was an older man. He was not anybody that was age appropriate for me. And it was, he was being tested beyond the limits of what he could handle by having this 15-year-old girl flirting with him. And I was just like so thrown. Like, what the fuck? Like, I'm flirting with this 40-year-old man, and meanwhile it was probably just some stupid conversation about I honestly didn't even remember what we would talk about whenever I saw him, but he made me feel comfortable. And so you know what it was? I would give him a hug. I would give him a hug when I saw him, or if I was standing next to him, I might put my arm on him or something, because I felt comfortable around him.
Yeah.
And that was inappropriate. And
well, to
so
me, your
they
dad should have
basically
probably
told me,
talked to the
yeah,
uncle as well.
well, yeah, that's what I felt like. But basically, they told me that if I didn't stop if I ever spoke to him again, or if I saw him in the hall, I would have to ignore him, and because I could wind up in the Victor's program if I didn't stop.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I was like, yeah, that was a weird thing to happen when you're 15 and you're already very confused about everything, you know?
Yes. Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely.
Definitely.
Even blah, 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 blah. All right, so now let me see, where did I leave? Partaking in these freedoms. I have bifocals, but the bifocals don't work too well. Partaking in these freedoms given to us through the law of love is a sobering responsibility, because the decisions made could have life-changing consequences.
Yes.
Like children. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, no doubt. Fracking may result in children, and those children will need to be cared for by mothers and fathers. And our teens need to understand that those mothers and fathers will be themselves. In other words, although teens have the freedom to engage in sexual interaction with one another, they must also realize that they will have to take responsibility for their actions. And this feels like, once again, like I was saying earlier, they had to dumb it down so far that even a fifth grader could understand this language.
Mm-hmm.
It just boggles the mind.
Yeah.
Notice as well that the clause says sexual interaction is permitted only with consenting 16 to 20-year-olds. It's very important to realize that not everyone within that age group is going to want to engage in sexual interaction. So, like, you couldn't force anybody. And that some will want to wait until they're older, or wait until they feel more prepared for it. Others will only want to dabble in it, while yet others will want to partake fully. Oh my God. What the fuck?
I also don't know that I've ever seen the word dabble in a legal document.
Dabble in sex. Let's dabble in it, y'all.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
The decision of whether to take this step is a very personal one, based on each one's faith. No one should ever feel pressured one way or the other by anyone. If members are trying to convince others to have sex or to go further than they want to, or if they're applying pressure in any way, then those actions are unloving and are contrary to the law of love. There's going to be a but.
There are exceptions.
However, there's going to be some of those words.
Therefore, there's a great deal of word on this subject. See, okay, did you notice that the word is capitalized? That means Mo letters.
The prophecy. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a great deal of word on this subject, which our teens are expected to read in order to help them fully grasp the depth of God's law of love. There's the but. There's the but. Right there. And to be prepared to live in accordance with it. See also word rules for those other requirements that must be fulfilled during a senior teen's 15th year before engaging in sexual interactions at the age of 16. Yeah. Ugh. All right. Knock yourselves out.
16 and 17-year-olds may not engage in sexual intercourse unless they have first counseled with and received permission from their resident parents or guardians, and after having read the charter required reading list. This permission is required regardless of whether the young people involved choose to use some form of protection. Oh, so now birth control is allowed.
Only if you're
only
16 or
for
17.
young people.
Yeah.
I'm guessing only for young people. I didn't even know that.
It is the responsibility of any 18 to 20-year-old who is involved with a senior teen to be aware of whether or not parental permission was obtained by the 16 to 17-year-old prior to engaging in intercourse. So,
What a weird thing to require. So
Well,
the
it's-
18-year-olds need to
it's-
make sure that they talk to the other parents
Mhm.
and make sure that they get the parental permission to fuck
What?
the child.
well, this is because 16 and 17-year-olds aren't of legal age to consent, so they have to ask their parents for consent.
I mean, I've heard of
Mother-
asking the parents to
Get
for
married.
their hand in marriage. This is like a whole other. This is
How-
a whole other take on that.
How awkward would that be?
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah,
Ma'am.
I want to have sex with your daughter.
I want to slap that shit around.
Even if permission to have sexual intercourse has been granted by the parents or guardians of the 16 or 17-year-old,
Yeah,
the teens
go ahead. Fuck my daughter.
the teens having sex must still agree together before beginning any sexual activity as to whether they will have sexual intercourse or not. If the teens haven't talked about it ahead of time, then it should be clearly understood by both partners that they will not engage in any sexual activity that could result in pregnancy. So, they have to be in agreement of what's happening as long as it can't result in pregnancy?
Even if permission to have sexual intercourse is granted, teens must have agreed whether they will be
Yeah.
talked about ahead of time. They should be clearly understood by both parents. They will not.
Yeah, by both partners. So it's saying if they haven't talked about having sex yet, then it's understood that they can't do anything that would result in pregnancy.
So they're not allowed to have sex unless they get permission.
And have a plan.
Oh wait, here's some hypothetical situations. There's a
Let's
senior
explore hypotheticals. Oh my god.
There's a senior teen girl in a home who has been getting close to a teen boy, and she has begun dating him. On the other hand, the mother and father of this young woman have strong reservations as to whether their daughter is ready to take on the serious responsibility of a pregnancy should she engage in sexual intercourse with the young man in question. Their daughter has not given much thought to the subject of marriage, nor has the young man who she has grown close to. They simply feel attracted to each other and like spending time together. Neither the young woman nor the young man in this picture are necessarily prepared and or prayed up on the subject. That's important. Possibly having a baby together should they have intercourse. Due to the Lord's counsel to the family, that pregnancy should in most cases result in marriage. The parents of the 16-year-old girl have a say in when or who their daughter should be allowed to have sexual intercourse with, especially since this is only the first year that she has begun having more serious contact with those of the opposite sex. There is also the factor that should an unexpected pregnancy occur, it is likely that a great part of the soon-to-be mother's care will fall on the parent's shoulders. Therefore, their daughter having intercourse, while it is the course of a personal matter between the daughter and her boyfriend, it is also a matter affecting more than just the daughter and the young man whom she is close to. The parents will be greatly affected and so should understandably have a say in what may be a long-term serious decision affecting all of their lives.
Wow.
While it may not be easy for senior teens to involve their parents or guardians in such decisions, it is a requirement which is for their benefit. This policy does not hinder young people from spending time together or dating one another. However, they should counsel about relationships with their parents or shepherds. This is simply letting them know that they need to receive permission from the resident parents or guardians before engaging in full intercourse. This stipulation should cause young people to realize that sexual intercourse is a serious responsibility, potentially taking the relationship to the realm of parenthood. Now, notice that it says resident parents. So this is still saying
Yeah,
that
that's
this is,
assuming that the parents are living in the same home where the teenagers are.
but if it's not, it's whatever the parent is in that house. So it could be Jenny's mom is who I'm living with.
Or it could be the person, the boyfriend.
See how it says the boyfriend's parents. See how it says the parents or shepherds.
Mhm.
It's not and or. It's or
Okay, it's one or the
shepherds.
other. Yeah.
So the resident parents or the shepherds.
Mhm.
So if your parents are not in the home, then the shepherds get to make that decision.
Yep.
Was the shepherd ever dating like the girls? Was that
yeah.
frowned upon? Okay, so then they're like,
because the
okay,
shepherd could be a 20-year-old.
I give myself permission to sleep with a 16-year-old, and then they could.
I'm sure that that's probably happened.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. And I hate reading this one because I have a 15-year-old, but I'm going to go ahead and do
Do you
it.
need me to?
No,
Okay.
I'll do it.
Okay.
Sexual interaction for teens ages 14 and 15. It is only permitted with other teens age 14 through 17 and is under the authority of the junior teens' parents or guardians. Sexual acts that include skin-to-skin touching. Oh, God.
That's why I asked if you wanted me
I
to
didn't
read it.
even get to that part. All right, skin-to-skin touching while you're butt naked. Teens ages 14 and 15 are not permitted to have sexual interaction with anyone 18 years and older. Sexual interaction by teens ages 14 and 15 is only permitted with other teens ages 14 through 17. We just said that, and is under the authority and responsibility of the 14 to 15-year-old parents or legal guardians. Parents or legal guardians may allow their junior teens to date and have emotional and physical contact with other teens that the parents deem appropriate. However, the teens are not permitted to engage in any sexual acts that include skin-to-skin touching of genitals by the teens, while those 16 and 17-year-olds are permitted to have full sex with those ages 16 through 20 with parental permission. 16 and 17-year-olds are not permitted to do so with the 14 and the 15-year-olds.
Well, I'm glad they have a line somewhere.
That's barely a
It's
line.
barely a
That's
line.
barely a
Squiggle in
line.
the sand is what it is.
Yeah, it's a squiggle. And the 14 and 15-year-olds, doesn't it say that they can have sex with other 14 and 15-year-olds, basically, in essence?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's number 1. But
I
only,
don't even. Why are we
yeah.
even talking about 14 and 15-year-olds? They should not. I'm just gonna throw
It
that
gets
out there.
worse.
Oh no. Oh,
We're-
they're about to go.
Why
to
is it going?
12-year-olds.
Why you also have a 12-year-old? This is
I
terrible
also
for
have a
Melissa.
12-year-old.
I'm telling you, this shit's nasty.
Is it like
All
this
right.
should not even be in the thoughts of anybody?
The
Go
fact
ahead.
that they had to put this on paper is just so disturbing on so many.
Well, I will say that this one's not as bad. It says that while dating for those ages 12 through 14 is at the parent's discretion, no
At
sexual.
the parent's discretion.
Yeah, that's
No
dating.
sexual interaction is allowed.
But it says no dating. While dating is at the parent's discretion, sexual interaction isn't allowed. So
Okay, so
they're
saying
trying to say.
There's a but there. There's always a but.
There's going to be a but.
Oh no.
The next one is a provision.
Oh God.
I can't do this. The fact is,
Yeah, exactly. And that's the problem is
Yeah.
that it's that one rotten egg that ruined it for everybody.
this
And
is
there
like
was
all-
a case of a 14-year-old girl that wound up getting pregnant. Now she was dating the same man and she married him, and they've been married ever since, so for 40 years. But yeah, she got pregnant. She went to her wedding when she was 14, big 9-month-old pregnant girl.
this is like the reason they have Surgeon General warnings. Like don't put the plastic bag over your head and breathe deeply. Don't, like things like that.
Although if you're Karen, please do.
That's Karen Zerbe, not just
Karen
all
Zerbe,
Karens.
not all Karens.
No. It's a specific
Very
one.
specific one.
It's funny how her name is Karen, isn't it?
It is funny.
It's like very
Apropos.
apropos.
Yeah.
Jinx. Uh, all right, so I guess it's me now.
Yep, your turn.
Thank God.
A provisional. Oh, we didn't read the 12-year-old. Yeah, well, we don't need to read
We chatted about that. We're
We
gonna move
chatted.
on.
that. All right,
Oh,
L.
oh, Eric's about to go live it on. Oh, when do we get there?
Uh huh.
Yeah.
Uh huh.
Oh man,
A
this is just getting
provisional
worse.
disciple 16 and older must refrain from sexual contact or acts with another family disciple, except his or her mate, until cleared by STD testing in accordance with health and hygiene rules.
I mean, like, yay, we're having good hygiene. Moving on. That's like not the worst thing.
Yeah,
You
go and get an
know?
STD test. A family disciple who gets a blood transfusion for any reason using blood from someone who is not a family disciple must refrain from sexual acts with another family disciple, except his or her mate, until cleared by testing in accordance with the health and hygiene rules.
I have a question.
Which doesn't, why it shouldn't be the mate either. But whatever.
I have a question. So
Mhm.
you guys didn't regularly go to the doctor. So who would be performing these STD tests?
Yeah, I
Leadership.
imagine that you would probably go to a clinic somewhere and just get one
Okay.
of the free STD tests.
Okay.
I remember going somewhere to get an STD test and an AIDS test when I got back in, because I did get back in for a while
Oh, so they
after
made you test.
95. Yeah, I had to go through the Babes program, so that was kind of interesting.
Oh, but interesting.
Yeah, so I had to do that, refrain from any sexual activity for 6 months, and I was like, "Pff,
You're
whatever,
like,
I don't."
can we just make this a lifetime?
Yeah.
I don't
I
want these
already
people
had a
touching
kid
me.
by then, and I think I'd only really had sex like 3 times. So yeah, I was a little unlucky on that one. I got pregnant second time, second time with a condom. So clearly, I knew I wasn't going to be having sex with anybody in the family, because that would have just been like I would have had bunnies after that. That would have been
Okay.
crazy. So yeah, you go.
Okay. A home member who may have contracted a sexually transmitted disease or affliction must inform his or her partner of the affliction and refrain from further sexual acts until cleared by testing according to the rules. Okay.
One thing that I do have to say is that for many, many years, this group did not suffer from rampaging STDs. Like,
Oh,
I don't remember hearing of a single case. At least not me personally, but I wasn't in until I was, after I was 20. I excommunicated myself. But as far as I knew, other than a couple of instances of some weird shit, which entailed the guys having sex outside of the family and bringing the STDs in, it was
Yeah.
fairly disease free because they were so anal about it.
Okay. If the member has contracted genital herpes, this is just the one that they're really concerned with now. Genital herpes, he or she can share with others provided that he or she follows the guidelines. So, I mean, mate, I don't know what to say about
Conservativeness
that
is just
one.
like rearing its ugly head.
Yeah. Also, female homosexual relationships are not permitted.
Yay.
Just the female.
just the females?
I don't,
Gotcha.
well, the males weren't either. I don't know why
It's not in
only
the
says
It's not in the rules.
handbook.
it must be somewhere else.
It says the Bible specifically prohibits male with male sexual activity, but there are no passages forbidding such activity between adult
That's why they
women.
put it in there. That's why they put it in there. Because in the Bible, it actually says no for the men. And so we follow the Bible. But it doesn't specifically say that there was lesbianism wasn't allowed. So they had to outline that in this charter. Wow. Weird.
Yet, Mr. Berg regularly shared with multiple women, I'm assuming at the same time.
Yes,
Oh,
because
yeah.
there are.
Menage a trois were just fine.
Yeah, how is that any
Yeah,
different?
this face, Eric, very much so. We're just gonna moving on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was sexual perversions such as anal. Oh yeah, anal intercourse and sadomasochism, bestiality, and other unclean or unloving sexual interaction may be harmful and dangerous. Are prohibited.
Well, hold on a second. We have literal paragraphs describing everything before this, but they're like not going to tell me what unloving means.
I
Yeah, what
think
does
they're
that mean?
talking about like with paddles
And
Sure.
and ball gags and shit.
Sure.
Well,
No
it's almost
kinks.
10.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
we're going to leave on a good note.
So basically, a missionary style, doggy style, that's fine. Going down on somebody, fine. But anything beyond that is
No
just
props.
like,
No props.
yeah, no props, no leather, no chains,
No animals. Isn't that
yeah, no
bestiality?
bestiality. Yeah, no furries, y'all. Just get that out of your mind. No fuzzy slippers in bed.
But it's just very
But they
weird.
they highly recommend lingerie.
Oh, is that what it says?
No, well, that's what they danced
Oh.
in were those sexy robes, the murder robes that were see-through.
Mm-hmm. No.
No fun.
No fun at all.
No.
Yeah.
Well,
I
If
think
it
this
ain't
is
for
a,
procreation, then it was just not. It was just for self gratification.
yeah.
yes.
I feel like this is a good place to stop it before we get
Yeah.
into the. Just seems like a good cutoff point.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
I agree. Holy mackerel.
That's just a lot of information to sit on for the evening.
To start your holiday weekend with.
Yes. Everyone have a good, happy, safe 4th. But remember that we are going to be our first episode will be out this coming
Get rid of that
Wednesday.
thing.
Yeah, can I quit looking at it? Thanks. We will our first episode will be coming out on Wednesday, so make sure you're subscribed. And until then, we'll see
Yes.
you next time.
Subscribe.